MediEvil was one of the great many new IPs that showed up on the PS1, and I've been a huge personal fan ever since. MediEvil probably sits right below my two favorite franchises of all time, Silent Hill and Metal Gear Solid. And I also really enjoyed the sequel that came out closer to the end of the PS1's life, and the complete reboot that came out on the PSP a few years after that. I really love the Tim Burton style presentation, mixed with the action gameplay that has some light RPG elements, and the dark comedy tone that permeated the whole game that would always manage to throw some jokes at you before it got too dark and throw some darkness at you before it got too goofy. Ever since, I have been waiting for another entry in the series, along with plenty of other fans of the original game. I started to lose hope though once I realized that the studio that made these games, Cambridge, had moved on to other franchises that didn't really interest me. They made Primal on the PS2, which was okay, and they made Killzone Mercenary on the Vita, which I liked actually quite a bit, and I did see some rumors about a MediEvil 3 that was proposed, but for whatever reason couldn't get the green light, even after somebody went out of their way to recreate the graveyard level in Unreal Engine 4 and posted it online. But even still, years after that, we haven't seen anything. And this made me lose even more hope that we would ever get a proper return to Gallowmere and see Sir Daniel Fortescue or Zarok or anybody else ever again.
Well, he's back.
Finally, you can prove yourself as warrior.
Greetings, stranger. I'm dead.
What do you want, you fleshless freak?
Well, here we are. We finally have confirmation that the franchise is coming back, and even though I think a true MediEvil 3 really would have been the right way to go at this point, I do welcome any reason to dive back into the franchise, and so should you. I do have a couple questions though. One, is this a true ground-up remaster like what Vicarious Visions did with Crash Bandicoot last year? It's possible. In fact, it's also possible that Vicarious Visions is the studio working on this. That'd be a great sign, because they did such a great job with those 3 games. And if it's not Vicarious Visions, I hope that whoever is doing it takes a page from their book, because if you're going to do a remaster, Vicarious Visions showed everybody how to do it. Between them and Bluepoint, I think this remaster is likely in very good hands. My second question is this a remaster of MediEvil or MediEvil Resurrection, the PSP reboot? Now, in my opinion, it would make more sense to stick with the original game. Vicarious Visions again showed us that you can take the PlayStation 1 assets and you can update them, and it can work out really well. But the fact that they seem to use audio clips in this trailer from the PSP game, including Al-Zalam's voice, which was the character who lived in Dan's skull. Now, Al-Zalam was not in the original game. He wasn't in MediEvil 2 either. He only appeared in the PSP reboot. So for them to have his voice in this trailer seems to indicate to me that we're actually going to be getting a remaster of the PSP reboot and not the original MediEvil. This is a little bit unfortunate because the first game really had that perfect balance of all the elements, whereas the PSP reboot, although it was still really good and I'm excited to play it, it did kind of err more on the side of being goofy and being silly, and it just wasn't as perfect of a balance as the first one, in my opinion. More evidence that they're going with the PSP game is the little animation at the end of the trailer. That zombie, that is from the actual PSP game. I believe it's from the intro. So at this point, it's looking like they're going with the PSP game, but it's also possible that they're so early on in the project that they don't have anything to show. I don't know. It would be pretty weird if they used all the PSP stuff in this trailer and then they ended up remastering the original PS1 game. That would be kind of weird, and I don't think that's very likely. So unfortunately, they're probably remastering the PSP game, it looks like. Again, I do want to reiterate, I do prefer sequels over old games, and I think as longtime Sony fans and MediEvil fans, we should keep asking for real sequels to some of these older IPs. But with MediEvil, we should also take what we can get. And I'm excited to see what they're doing with this game. If the plethora of remasters that Sony has put out over the past 10 years are any indication, we should be excited for this. It's probably in good hands, and it's probably going to be great. The only problem is we just know so very little. We don't even know what studio's working on it right now. So we have to pay attention, and until we get more information, all we can do is really speculate. I am watching the development of this remaster very closely, but if you happen to have any information or ideas or suspicions about MediEvil that I didn't cover in this, feel free to throw it down in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you have to say, and in the meantime, thanks for watching.